Hey everyone, welcome back to my podcast. My name is Fernando. I am a professional psychic medium and spiritual teacher. And on this episode, we are going to talk about dreams and the difference between regular dreams and psychic dreams, and how do you know when you are having a psychic dream. If you followed me along on Instagram and on Facebook, you'll know that I do post whenever I have a very unique dream where I believe might be somehow connected to a real world event or circumstance. And I've actually done this a few times. There are some videos I've done. Actually, there was one video I did a few years ago, right before, it was probably a month or two right before the shooting in Las Vegas, where all those people were killed and hurt. And I described my dream in detail and recorded a video, put it out there, and then someone actually brought it to my attention when it happened, because I totally forgot all about the dream. I just, like, my I don't hold on to the thoughts very much. I don't hold on to memories and things very often, so sometimes I just go on and forget whatever I said, which happens a lot in this industry. I think it's an occupational hazard. But a client brought it up to my attention. It's like, hey Ferny, do you remember even talking about this? I'm like, no. And I went and re-listened to the recording because I totally forgot what I said, and I was just kind of like, whoa, like I totally tuned in and picked up on that situation before it happened. So there have been several times where I've had psychic dreams where I'm either seeing the future, something's going to happen, something's coming up, and I'm being given forewarning. Most times, most nights, most of my dreams are just dreams. It's usually me expressing my frustrations or my anxieties, stuff that I'm worried about. It's usually showing up in my dream in some way or another in a symbolic form. But every now and then, I will have a dream where it just feels very real. It feels important. And I think that's one of the things that I remember whenever I'm having a dream of significance, or there's some sort of precognition with it, is after I wake up, as soon as I wake up, I know the dream is important, or I know it means something is going to come about that is connected to the dream. I feel that. So I already wake up feeling that way. Now, a lot of times, and you might be guilty of this yourself. I know I have been guilty of doing this in the past. Is whenever I had a really lucid dream. When a lucid dream is more, it's just a dream that feels very real. It feels like a real dream, like you're in real life, and it feels like a real event. Sometimes I would jump to the gun and I would assume that a dream meant something is going to happen exactly and identical to what I'm seeing in the dream. So I would jump the gun and I would start like spouting off and telling people like, hey, this is what I dreamt, this is what I dreamt, this is what I dreamt. And it didn't happen, or it didn't happen anywhere near to the extent of what I was seeing in my dream. Sometimes I just was reaching, I guess, and these were in the earlier days when I was trying to develop myself. I was just reaching for attention. I was reaching for the satisfaction of knowing that I sense something and I'm psychic and look what I can do. Like I had that mentality and I had that issue, and I remember being that way. And so some of the dreams that I would share were more of a, I'm gonna tell you this because you're gonna see it happen, and I'm gonna show you, and I'm gonna be accurate, I'm gonna be right, and you're gonna be blown away by me. Like there was a lot of instances that I would do that. Now when I look back on that, I'm like, oh my god, what's wrong with you, Fernie? Like, get it together, girl. But I mean, I'm sure some of you are guilty of that yourself, because it's everybody wants to be validated. Everybody wants to feel like what they are experiencing or what they're receiving is significant. So don't feel bad. Don't feel guilty if you've done that in your life. Don't do it. Just don't do it very often. What I would recommend whenever you have a dream, and we're going to get into this during our podcast, but when you're having a dream and you wake up and you feel like it's important or it means something, what I would suggest is I would not suggest you run around and you tell everybody that you're psychic and you're seeing the future. Don't do that, because you're basically setting yourself up for failure, right? Because if something doesn't happen and it doesn't show up at all, you're just going to make yourself look like a fool, okay? This is what you do, though. You wake up, you write out in as much detail as you can what you saw in the dream, or what you experienced in the dream, or in what perspective, and write down all the details, and try really, really hard not to twist or to change the details, because in the wanting to be right and in the wanting to be accurate, a lot of times we will twist things or we'll make something out of nothing. So don't try to like overly um, overly add to the story. Try to stick to as clearly as what you saw as possible, and write it all down. And write as much of it as you can remember down as soon as you wake up. I these days I don't even wait till I wake up because I don't want to forget what I'm dreaming about. I just grab my phone, and usually my phone's on the lowest dim setting anyway, so it's not like a huge brightness to my face. But I'll open up notes and I'll start typing in my notes like just major pieces of the dream, like if there was a zebra, I'll write down a zebra. If there was a car wreck, I'll write down major pieces, so I don't have to sit there and write down everything in great detail. I just write it out in pieces, and then when I wake up, those pieces are going to trigger me to remember, and then I'll write down everything that I can remember to that extent. But write it down and put a date on it, and then just that's it. Leave it alone. And if you feel like you have to tell someone, or like the world is going to end if you don't share your dream, then tell one other person. Don't go on social media and write out, I had this huge dream or whatever like that. Leave that up to the people who call themselves psychics and mediums, and people who expect them to to shell out that bullshit. Which is me. I raise my hand up because I follow in that category. But don't go and put yourself out there like that, because you're probably going to get a lot of nasty comments, or people are going to just throw you in the loony bin. They're not going to want to believe you. And if you ever decide maybe this is something you want to do professionally, you really don't want a lot of all the shit you said back in the day, and none of it happened, or you were crazy. You sounded crazy. So no. So what I would recommend is write it down, date it, and tell one other person that you trust, or that you feel comfortable telling. Like I had this crazy dream last night. I always tell Ed. Usually when I have a crazy dream, but he never remembers, which is why I don't. I try to tell him, because I want to say, hey, do you remember when I said this? And he doesn't. Remember. No, I don't remember that. I'm like, oh great, like I went and told you about this whole dream and it's happening right now, and you're like, oh, I don't remember you saying that. Like, come on. So what I do for me personally is, because I don't know if it is a psychic dream or not, but there's a lot of components that lead me to believe that something is a psychic dream, because it feels super important. As soon as I wake up, I know it's important, and then I have to share it somehow. So that's one indicator that it's a psychic dream of some sort. Another indicator that it's a psychic dream is that I'm usually experiencing from a first-hand perspective. And what I mean by that is, every single dream I've ever had where it's about something that's happening in the world, I'm not experiencing it through my life or in my through my presence. I'm seeing it through someone else's eyes, or I'm experiencing it through someone else's eyes. I remember having this one dream, and I'm going to share a few examples with you, and some of these are a little graphic, and I'm sorry for that, but this is the only way you'll understand. Some of the earlier dreams, I remember having this one dream where this man, it was in a kitchen, and I was a little toddler, and I was there was this man, and he was holding a baby in his arms, and they were in the kitchen, and the baby wouldn't stop crying, and he got so annoyed and so frustrated that he took the child and he put the child in the microwave, and he turned on the microwave. And I remember seeing that, and I remember the crackling that started happening in the microwave with the baby's skin, and it was so horrific for me to see that it woke me up out of my dream. And I was like, why would I see that? I woke up pissed off, because I was like, why would y'all show me this? Like this, what am I supposed to do with this? Like, am I supposed to go look for every child and a father? And what am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to do anything with this? So I woke up pissed off and irritated, because I felt that I was given that vision, and I hate graphic, violent things. Like I don't watch movies nowadays, because if it's too graphic, it has to be something really, really good for me to bear with the violence or the graphicness of something. Gore, I hate gore. So when I woke up, I was just pissed off and irritated by this dream. And I said, why are you showing this to me? And I think a few weeks later, or a couple of months later, I saw a story like that in the news. And I was just like, oh my God, that's what I saw. And then there was another time, a dream. There was the one where I was the Nevada shooting. That's another one that I mentioned to you guys as well. And I was seeing it through someone who was in the audience running from the bullets flying. So that was another dream that I had. Before the Pulse nightclub massacre and terrorist event, which happened in Miami about a week or two. No, about a. I think yeah, about 2 or 3 weeks before that happened. I had a dream where I was one of two. I'm sorry. I was this man who was killing gay men, and I was in this like place in Miami, and there were these gay men, and they were all trying to escape and get out of the room, and some of them were crawling up like windows and stuff, and I was stabbing and I was killing and I was shooting, like I was killing people. And I remember having that dream. It was really graphic, and I woke up and I was like, "What the hell is this?" But I remember where it was, and I remember what the basis of the dream was, and I even told a few of my family members. We were coming back from a trip to the beach. We had gone fishing, and on the way back, I had said I had this really weird dream about these men being murdered or killed. They were a gay couple. And so I described some of the dreams components to my family members. Are like, "That's why would you dreams like that? That's crazy. Why would you dream?" I'm like that? They just come. They just show up. These dreams just show up. And sure enough, 3 weeks later, it happened. And they remembered and they said, "Oh my God, that's the dream." I'm like, "Yeah, I know." So, I tell like a few people. Nowadays, when I'm having the dream, and I do this more for educational reasons, but also just to record it, is I will go and if you follow, like I said, if you follow me on YouTube and you follow me on, follow me on Facebook and on Instagram, whenever I have a dream and I wake up and there's major components of the dream that I want to remember, I will put it in like this, I'll make this little like 4 picture little post where I'm posting 4 major things that happened in the dream, and then I'll describe my dream in detail. For those of you who want to see, what happens when I have a really graphic or really intense dream that I think might relate to something in the real world, and I'll describe it and I will show you pictures, and then because I don't know if it's going to be something that actually happens or if it's symbolic in nature or what, but it feels important, and so I want to record it, so I'll share it with all of you guys, and I'll ask you what you think about it, but also just to also have a record of me recording that, me posting that, so people can go back and see. None of that, but for those of you who have dreams, it's normal. Like, it's normal to have dreams where you're being given a vision, you're being given signs, you're being given like impressions and stuff, and it means something. It really does mean something. I hear all the time from clients who dream that they've had a dream that their loved ones died, and then sure enough, their loved ones pass away. I had other dreams where some of my clients dreamed that their husbands are cheating on them, and sure enough, within a few months, something comes up. So I don't say you should trust every dream you have, because sometimes a majority of dreams are releases. They are you just releasing your fears, your anxieties, your worries, and you're just releasing it. I cannot tell you how many Starbucks dreams I have had since I left Starbucks. I mean, I kid you not. I always have the same type of dream where I'm back working at Starbucks and I'm having to make coffee again, and I'm having to deal with the bullshit that happened behind the scenes with, all of the inner office politics with the company. And so I have those dreams. I have probably 2 of those a year. I would say 2 Starbucks dreams a year, sometimes 3, where I'm back there and I'm having to make coffee and I'm no longer able to do this. So it's a fear of mine. It's an anxiety of mine, and definitely something that I keep. But that doesn't mean I'm going to go back and work at Starbucks. It just means that there's some fears and anxieties that I'm struggling with, and that's why I'm having that dream. So you shouldn't trust every single dream you have as a precognition, because again, a premonition, because it might just be you wanting attention, like I used to want attention. It might just be you wanting to sound right or wanting to make a big deal out of something that is not so significant. It might be a symbolic dream where you're just taking it very literally, and it's not. It's actually symbolic in nature. And you need to really decipher and understand it. And sometimes the best way to understand it is to write the dream down, break it up into pieces, because usually when you're seeing something, dealing with something, or experiencing something, it means something. It's something significant. So it represents some piece of information, and you just go through it and you can kind of make sense of the entire dream. But I would suggest writing them down and then just trying to understand it. And you can always share it with someone and let them interpret your dream, because they might see something or notice something in your dream that you didn't. But like I said, when I think it's a psychic dream and it's a premonition, it feels important. As soon as I wake up, I know it means something, or it's important and I need to share it. I may not understand the significance of it. I may not even be able to break down the symbolism of it, but it's important for me to share it in that way, because I don't want, if I can give someone a piece of information that potentially changes the course of someone suffering or being hurt, I will gladly take the hit of sounding like a crazy maniac or being a fool and not being correct, because I would rather have someone be helped with that than to just do it for attention or anything like that. So I think that's where I'm coming from in all of that. Um, there are times where my loved ones communicate with me in dreams, and it's easier for them to honestly, with my family members, it is easier for them to communicate with me in dreams than it is to just show up, because when I'm working with other people's spirits, other people's family members, and it's easier for me to share what I'm getting because they can validate the information, and it's not something that I would be privy to. If I try to tune into a loved one right now, I mean, I don't know the differences if it's just me wanting to hear what I want to hear, or if it's them giving me something very specific. And so I ask them to come in dreams, and they do. They show up in dreams, and they will vocalize or share or tell me what I need to know. Every single time there has been death in the family, the dream is about someone having a huge party in a white place, like a white house, or someone at their own funeral. And that's usually what I'll dream before somebody passes away, and then of course they pass away. So that's another way that I receive communication from those in spirit, from my loved ones. Um, Dreams, I think you can learn a lot from your dreams if you would just pay attention and try not to twist it or turn it into anything other than what it is. And for me, over the years, it really does help me to write it down, to break it up in pieces and just examine each piece, because the symbolism in dreams is pretty profound sometimes. Usually a white house or a big white space represents heaven for me. Don't know why, just does. There have been several instances where I've visited the other side, or I've gone to the other side and I've joined the other spirits there. But the place doesn't look like this. Like, I'm not on a cloud floating around with a harp. I'm usually at some sort of huge venue. Like, this has been the same two venues that I've seen over and over and over again. One of the venues that I've seen, one of the places that are heaven like for me, it's this huge like playhouse or a huge opera house or a huge venue like this, where a bunch of people are seated. There's a stage and there's red curtains, and there's a ton of people there. So whenever I go there, I know that I'm in heaven, because you know everyone there, they are watching us here in the physical world. We are their show. We are their play. We are their television. I would say form of entertainment, except it's not that they're just watching us to be entertained. They're watching us because they're learning from us and through us. And so they're not only that, but they're also, some of them are there to coach us. Some of them are there on the other side, and they see us in this game that we call life. They're in the stands watching us play. They see us stumble and fall and drop the ball. They're yelling and shouting, "Get up, get up, get up." I mean, they're there to help us in that way. So one of the venues that I usually encounter whenever I go to the other side is this huge playhouse or this huge opera house, where all these people are gathered. Some people are dressed normally. Some people are in costumes. Some people are in like really nice suits and etc. And I'm usually there like trying to find my seat. So that's an interesting dream that I have regularly. I've had it several times, but I know I'm in the other side. The other dream that I have, that is also I'm on the other side, is there's this huge, it's like there's a desert. There's like a desert where there's nothing for miles and miles and miles. There's absolutely nothing. But in the middle of the desert, there's this huge, I want to call it spaceship looking like building, but it's huge, and it is a movie theater and a game room, and it's a like lecture hall. It's like everything in one. So whenever I go there, people are playing games, people are doing what they're doing, etc. I mean, everybody's doing their own thing. And so that is a representation of us here. Like, we're all here playing the games that we know ourselves to have, which is our lives, or we're participating in an act or in a play or in something, and there are people there watching us. Like, that's the other image. So whenever I go there, it's always like, oh, I'm on the wrong floor. I've got to get to the right floor. I've got to get to the right level, etc. And those are just, symbols for my life and what I may be struggling with or what I'm dealing with at the time. But that's another way that I see heaven. So it's either this playhouse or this venue. It's this like place in the middle of the desert where there's nothing but this place, and or a White House, which has happened already several times where I'm in this clean, ultra modern or ultra simple minimalistic home, and it's all white. And that's the other one. So those are the three different identifying factors that I know whenever I know that I'm on the other side or I'm in heaven. There are other kinds of experiences that people have that they associate with dreams. There are those dreams where people feel like they're falling, and then they like wake themselves up, or they get all scared and they wake themselves up really quickly and jump up and stuff. And that's actually not you're not actually falling, but you are actually falling. And what happens in those instances is every single night, almost every night throughout our entire lives, we take a break. And we being in the physical body is like forcing 1,000 boxes into one box. So it's like a lot of stuff in a very short, small space and period of time. So we cram ourselves into these physical bodies, but they aren't designed to hold us indefinitely. They're just vehicles. They're just shells that we use. They're just tools that we use to experience our lives. And so we need breaks because it's kind of hard. It's like, stepping, it's like women, it's like putting your feet into some really tight heels, like high heels that are just so painful. You do it for however long you have to do it, but then at some point, the moment you get a chance to just take a break, you take your shoes off. It's the same thing. Almost every night, our spirits, our spiritual essence cannot sustain this ongoing like fitting. We can't keep being in our bodies because it's just too painful sometimes for us. It's too much. So we allow ourselves to release and we expand. So we disconnect from the body, we disembark and we release ourselves and we expand into our greater selves. And we start to experience things from that perspective. We're still alive. The physical body is still going because it's got each engine, each model has a unique code where you're not going to switch off until a certain point, so that it's going to keep running. The machine's going to keep running until that switch off code is hit, and then it turns off. But so even if we're separated from our bodies momentarily, our bodies are still alive. So we expand, we disconnect from our physical bodies, we expand into the greater selves, we transition over and back into our spirit selves. And there are different levels from here to the other side. Some of us will kind of meddle and mingle in between the different levels. Some of us will go all the way to the other side, but we separate ourselves. We disconnect because we're not used to being stuck in these physical bodies for so long. Sometimes people, when they are coming back to their bodies, and they're rushing back in, something happens and they're rushing back in really quickly, or they're in the process of disconnecting and then something scares that person, they will slam back into the physical body. They will slam back in and reconnect. And that's usually what that experience of falling is all about. When you're falling off of a cliff or falling towards the sky, towards something, that's what that is about. You're literally falling back to your physical body. And we see this jokingly, we see this place as a like hole in the ground. We see it as like, this flat place or this hole in the ground or this abyss, as you will. So that's what we understand this place to be this, because this is a lower vibrational level that we exist on in the physical world. We experience darkness here, we experience negativity here, we experience hardships and struggling here, suffering. So when we are disconnecting and something shakes us or causes us to get slam back in, we get scared, then you'll have that experience of slamming back into your body, but you're actually falling back into your body, and that's what's happening there. So excuse me. People call it astral projection. People have different names for it, but it's basically astral projection. It's where you leave your body and you're no longer attached to your physical body. You are attached, but you're not like tied to it, like you're not attached to it, like in it anymore. You can freely move about. There was a guy named Robert Monroe who wrote several books about his experiences out of the body. It's called Journeys Out of the Body. Check him out because they're pretty cool. And if you ever want to learn how to willingly astrally project, then those are the books and the resources to look into. I looked into his books back in the day, and I used to spend time meditating and focusing on trying to disconnect from my body. I do. I mean, we all do naturally. Like when we sleep, we just don't recall all the specific details, and we don't recall like being an energy being separated from the physical body here in the physical world, because we usually don't stick around in the physical world. We usually like zoom into that other realm that we're from. So people who want to willingly actually project, but they want to stay on the physical level, that's a practice. That takes work. And I came pretty close to it when I was a teenager, when I was practicing astral projection. And I had this one experience one night where I was asleep, and I had just practiced that evening before I went to sleep, some of the things that I can do to help me astrally project. And then I woke up, and I remember waking up, and I felt like I was swaying back and forth in my own body. It was so weird because I was like, I feel like I'm swaying and going back and forth, back and forth. So I felt like I was on a swing. And then I started to feel like vibrations, like I was feeling like my body vibrate, and I was like, "Well, that's weird." And I started to feel like a wind across my body, and I also was hearing a buzzing in my head. And so usually those are indicators. Those are some of the signs that you'll get before you disconnect or you exit your body. But you also, there's a level of fear you reach as well, because when you start to experience these things, you also start to experience some fear, and the fear will keep you from disconnecting fully. It'll keep you like attached to your body, or you'll still be stuck with your body. So I felt this level of fear, and then I was like, oh no, I don't think I'm ready for this right now. Like I am not I'm not sure I'm ready to take that next step or to like disconnect. I just it's the fear that you have. So it happened, and I didn't disconnect. But I mean, we all astrally project. It's not a big deal. But of course, people like the idea of like, I'm going to disconnect from my physical body. I'm going to be this spiritual being walking around in the physical world, visiting my neighbors, my friends, etc. And you can encounter some really interesting phenomena and other beings in that state. And that's why I would suggest reading Robert Monroe's books, because they're very interesting and they talk about those kinds of experiences. If you want to have more psychic dreams, and this is part of, check out my YouTube psychic development class. Just go over to YouTube. You can get there through my website, and you can just go to YouTube and type in my name. I should come up. I have a class where I teach people how to improve and increase their psychic potential, their psychic abilities. And if you want to have more psychic dreams, there are things you need to know about before you begin having more dreams. And you don't just want to open yourself up to whatever, because you could very well be opening the door to all kinds of bullshit and weirdness, and you don't really want to put yourself out there like that. So you want to be very intentional in what you're trying to experience and what you want to receive in the dream state. And I think that intention is so important, because it really does align you with the energy you're going to be bringing in. It's going to be like, connecting yourself with. And so having an intention before you dream is important. And what I would say is, right before you go to bed, right before you go to sleep, you can do one of two things. You can create a prayer or a affirmation about what you wish to receive in your dream state, or you can meditate. If you meditate, I would recommend meditating for 15-20 minutes before you go to sleep, because what it does is it allows you to be more calm, more receptive, and more willing to just receive, versus you thinking about the things that you're worried about in life. Like, when you're falling asleep and all you can think about are your bills or your relationship or work or your stress or whatever, then your brain is so active and it's so busy with all that chatter. You're really probably not going to have a psychic. Some people do, but you're probably not going to have psychic experiences or psychic dreams very often. So you've got to quiet that down. And one of the best ways to quiet that down is to actually meditate before you go to sleep, because it helps you to kind of breathe, learn to be in the moment, and let go of those things. Another thing is you can create like I said, a prayer. You can say, "Dear God, I surround myself with love and light. I align myself with the information that is there for us to understand, that is in reference to future events and future experiences. So I ask and I wish to receive information that will help me to see what is coming for us as humans, what may be showing up in experiences and in events," and just make something up. But if you write something like that down and then say thank you at the end, you're basically aligning with the energy of that and you're intending for that. So you're going to create more opportunity to receive that information. Same thing with like your loved ones. If you want to communicate with your loved ones, you want them to visit you in a dream, then I would suggest you do meditation before just breathing, and then you ask for it in a very specific way. Now, if you're overly anxious or you're overly excited about doing that, or you're overly like obsessive about it, if you get obsessive about it, you're trying to control the process, and it's probably not going to happen. You need to get to a place where you're okay with letting whatever's going to happen. You would like it, but it's like your life doesn't depend on it, right? Not like what's going on in your life isn't dependent on it, because if you're doing that, you're controlling the receptive processes, and you're going to not get as much. So just food for thought. But that's another way that you can kind of align with that energy and increase your likelihood of having a psychic experience and dreaming and stuff. You can also go and eat Whataburger. For those of you who don't know what a Whataburger is, it's a hamburger chain in Texas. But every time, I don't know why, but whenever I'd go and have like a full blown Whataburger with like fries and all that crap, like I would have the craziest psychic dreams. So Whataburger definitely is one of those things, and I'm not promoting Whataburger in any way, not to have an unhealthy lifestyle, but that's another thing that would work for me sometimes. Well, guys, I hope that this has given you some information about psychic dreams and dreams in general, and how you can increase the likelihood of having a psychic dream, and what the difference might be between you having a psychic dream versus you just having a dream where you're just like, having mental diarrhea. But I love you guys, and check out my website if you haven't already gone. It's www.fernandomaron.com. You can also check me out on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. You can also check me out on Snapchat and also Twitter. Don't forget to follow and like and subscribe to my channel as well. And I'm going to be putting out some new content in the future. If you guys have any dreams about psychic dreams or about your specific experiences, I'd love to hear about them. Please share them in the comments section attached to this video or podcast. And I look forward to our next time together. Until then, take care. Bye-bye.